Okay, this video is going to be talking about using the Bambu Lab slicer, the Bambu Lab A1 Mini, and the AMS 4-color attachment for the A1 Mini. How to use them offline. I'm not going to be using any of the handheld devices, the Bambu Handy or the cloud or any of that stuff, just working directly. And there are a few things which don't seem to be covered anywhere in the written manual when you're doing this that are going to give you problems. So I'm going to try to steer you clear of that, plus just give you some general information. Anyway, you need to start by downloading the Bambu Lab Studio on your home computer if you're going to be working offline on your home computer. And you can use this Bambu Lab Studio for more things than just bamboo. It has preferences for a lot of other printers, which I guess I'll just show you here in a second. Anyway, I'll put a link to this in the description of the video down below, but what you're looking at is bambulab.com/en/download, and that'll bring you to this page, and you can get the Studio for Windows or for Mac. So let's close this out. And once you've downloaded, it'll run you through things, you know, like setting your language and stuff like that, and which printers you're interested in tying in with it and all that kind of good stuff. But what you normally are going to see is going to be this page here when you first power into it. And there's some models here that are available for you to download to test and stuff like that. What I was just clicked on just below the word models was user manual. You'll find this section very helpful, because when you click on these, it'll take you onto the web, and sometimes it'll show you videos, but sometimes it'll just walk you through it. But it tells you, you know, about multicolor printing and setting the slicers and the remote and all that kind of stuff. So let's assume that you're going to actually do something of your own. So select new project. And this is going to be the workspace. I think before we put any part on there, we probably should talk about up here at the top where it says printer. And you got this little tool icon, little gear thing. If you click, there we go. It was just slow to respond. If you click on that, it's going to open up this printer selection, so you can tell the slicer that you want to be able to use it with any of the Bambu Lab printers. In my case, the only one I own is the A1, so that's the only one that I put a check mark next to. And because I'm using the 0.4 nozzle, I also checked that. If I ever go to some other nozzle size, then I can check these other ones, and it'll tie that right in with it. But as you can see, you can also go with the Anchor printers. You got the Anycubic, all kinds of Anycubic, Creality machines, lots of those. You got your Elegos, and got some Prussias. So you can see you can tie this in with a lot of different printers, should you want to. Okay, now normally when you power into this whole thing, it's just going to show one filament style here, but because I'm using the AMS, I've got 4 filaments already selected, and the way you bring them up and select them is with this plus and this minus. If you want to keep adding more, you just hit the plus, and once you click here, you'll tell it whether you're using Bambu Lab filament or whatever you want. I just put in generic PLA. And generic that, and generic that. And the colors that I had laying around, if you tap on the square, you can then select and make them whatever color you want. The first one I made a light gray, because right now I've got some gray filament loaded. When I do the test print, I'm actually going to have black there. But having black of the first one, when you bring a component up, it just brings it up as a black blob. You can't see anything. So making black your number one isn't the best choice. Just about any other color in place of that would be making life a lot easier. The trickiest thing was that I kept bringing in my models. Now their models would print fine. On the SD card that comes with it, there are several models that are multicolor, and they would all work. And whenever I sliced one, colored it myself the way I wanted it, saved it to the SD card, put it into the A1 Mini, it wouldn't go into the AMS mode, allowing me to print the multicolors. It would just print the whole thing as one color. I finally noticed that when exporting, I don't know if I can without something on the plate. Let's take a look. So you have your export and you come down to this, and there's some choices that are not highlighted right now because I don't have anything going on. But the point is, I could export it as a 3MF file, which is their preferred file, or I could export it as a G-code file. And what I noticed was that their files that were working on the AMS unit weren't one or the other, they were both. The end of their file would go .gcode, .3mf, but that wasn't a choice anywhere here. Turns out in the end that when you slice your own and do the colors and all of that, you have to click on the one that says export all plate sliced file. None of the other ones will give you both the .gcode and the .3mf afterwards, so it doesn't save enough information for the printer and the AMS unit to do the job. Just thought I'd share that because that's probably the biggest secret you'll pull out of this whole video, is if you've been coloring them and trying to get it to work and can't get it to work, that's why. So you got your little boxes like in all of them. You can click on this and you can open something that you might want to color. So let's see, I had taken this little Tommy robot that I found online and I made it small on purpose. I guess I don't need to zoom in. Well, I can bring it up larger here. But I took just the front half of it, and then I went in, and up here, you can see this little paint bucket with a drip coming out of it. If you click on that, you now have different tools for coloring this thing. And I had already, like I told you earlier, I'd already assigned these things generic and already assigned them the colors in the same order that I'll be showing you on my AMS unit, that I had them there. And so the colors will also turn up here. So for example, if I take number 2, which was a red generic, and then you have different tools. This is just a circle tool. You put that somewhere, it would now print that right there in the end. I don't want that though, so let's remove that. Next one is this sphere, which is a little bit different than the circle painting tool. The circle painting tool you really can consider a pen, and by moving this slider here you can make it larger or smaller and whatnot. And the sphere works the same way. You can decide the side. This is a triangle. Everything that's in here is actually made up of triangles, and this breaks it down to where you can paint by individual triangle sections. So you can kind of get some fine detail that way. The one that I use most often is this one that's called Fill right here. And you've got Smart Fill Angle, just think that as your threshold, section view. So it'll take any sharp edges and consider that a threshold. So if I click there and I've got the red selected, it's going to say, okay, I'm going to make all of that red. As you can see, this part in here didn't get covered. So if you want that red as well, you would then click there. You've got to look at it from all angles if you want to cover something all the way. Or for example, if I click on my number 3, which was a yellow, I could say, well, I want the inside of that yellow. And let's go back to number 1, gray. That's already gray. I can't change that. Here, let's select white. Let's just make that white. So you can see how you can just paint these things as long as you remember that you need to look at them from all angles, otherwise something could get missed. So that's the long and the short of that. I'm going to go up and say new project. I don't want to save any of this. And what I'm going to try to open now, if I can find it, I did, that's the back, body, front, for color. So let's see what opens here. So here's the one that I've colored. Like I said, I made number 1 black. So you can see I've got some black parts, some white parts, but red, some yellow. Got lots of colors, and swing it around and highlight it. And it's basically showing you that the purge block is going to be that big. And a print like this, which would normally may take 20 minutes, is going to end up taking about almost 8 hours, about 7.5 hours or better, because of all the color changes. When it has to change colors layer by layer, it may only be printing on this for 3 seconds. I'd say between 3 and 8 seconds is the longest I ever saw the thing actually printing. The rest of the time is spent changing the color in the print head, which takes over 2 minutes. So that all adds up real quick. So anyway, once you've got this colored the way you want it and everything, like I said earlier, you'll go up to File, go to Export. I guess because of this is a file that I'd already sliced, I can't save it again, but you would go up there and you would save it on the one that I told you about. Export all plate sliced file. You would select that, save that to your computer or your SD card. I normally save them to my computer and then copy them to the SD card so that I have a backup on the computer that I can get back to. And you'll take that, hang on, we're going to be moving. You'll take that right over to the printer. You can see the AMS is up here, and that's 1. There's a 1 next to it. Here's 2, which is red. There's 3, which is yellow, and there's 4, which is white. And you can see that there's lights on each one of those. See the little lights? Now let's turn this guy on. If I can get this to stay there. Stay. There we go. So let's power on. This is actually the part that I ran from that file to test to make sure everything was working right. You can see it did. And here's the purge block. And here is all the waste. You know, the poop chute they call it. I just set the box right here. This head's always right in line with that, so when it shoots it off, they all went in the box. I didn't have to pick any of this stuff up anywhere else. Maybe it was already on. There we go. We're lighting up now. And let's see, I think maybe we might want to get closer to the screen. So hang on here. I'm getting reflections from the fluorescent lighting. This may be about as close as I can get you. Let's try zooming in a little bit. So it's going to come up and look this, and you can go to your print files. And then you can look for the file that you did. These are all something different. I believe this one must be it here. And because it has all the files, it showed the picture. If it didn't have all the files, it wouldn't. And if it didn't have all the files, it wouldn't say use AMS already highlighted, which we want to leave. So then we go to next. And then here it shows the hubs, and it shows which color it expects each one of those reels of filament to be. You could go in, if you'd moved your reels around, and change them at this point. You can touch and change the colors here, and you can also reassign the numbers. You see how that number 1 is in green? If you wanted that color number 1 to print as number 3, you can move the 3 there, and you can move the 1 there. You can move all these things around just by touching on them. Like, the touchscreen isn't always the most responsive. Mine isn't anyway. I kind of have to touch above the item to select them. So once you're there, you've got the 1, 2, 3 showing on this window, and you can touch that window and you can change them. It thought I was touching the one above. Like I said, it's a little a little wonky. But if all of these things are the way you want them, you have your colors in, you've got your file, and then you can just hit print, and now it's going to start the whole operation of printing that part, which I don't need to print again, so I'm going to hit stop. I'm going to say quit, and thank you. Oh, let's back this thing up. So I think those were the highlights that I wanted to cover, is that there's so many good videos on YouTube about coloring these prints using the Bambu Lab slicer, and then there's the links to the Bambu Lab help, if you will, their video and text. Between those you can pretty much figure that out. The only thing that really wasn't covered anywhere was how to save that file in the end so that the A1 Mini and the AMS would recognize that it was in fact a multicolored print. And for whatever reason they didn't provide that top secret information anywhere. But and if in the end the file that you save, if it doesn't say .gcode.3mf, just like that, it isn't going to have enough information for this unit to allow you to operate all of those. So if you have specific questions, leave them down below for operating this system offline. I'll try to answer them.